If you've been playing chess for more than 5 minutes, then you will have found yourself in a tricky position where your opponent creates a nasty pin on your knight with this bishop on b4, and sometimes even backs it up with a queen on a5. And in today's quickfire lesson, we're going to show you how to defend against this and all the tricks that can happen in these types of positions. So what we're going to start with is this opening here, which is called the Queen's Gambit Declined, and this is the Cambridge Springs defense variation. This is a really important and key opening to know. So if we go back to the start, how does this happen? d4, d5, c4, e6, Queen's Gambit Declined, and white plays the move bishop to g5. Black plays an early c6, and after e3, instead of the classical bishop to e7 move, black plays queen to a5. The point of this move is it causes white a lot of problems and is essentially threatening to play bishop to b4 and knight to e3. And this is a key position where we're going to learn a whole bunch of principles. First principle: if you have a bishop on g5 and if you have your pawn on e3, your bishop cannot drop back and is always going to be a target to a queen on a5. So always bear in mind, when you play the move e3, ask yourself, do I need to drop my bishop back for any reason? If I don't, then that's fine. If I do, then I'm going to hold off on playing e3. I might even consider playing g3 and bishop g2 and developing that way. The other telltale sign is you cannot castle on your next move as white. Because if you can, there is no pin to worry about. So what we're going to worry about instead is this bishop going to be under attack at any point, and is this knight going to be under attack? So with queen on a5, black has broken his pin and is now threatening knight to e4. So if here are some of the tricks that can happen. We're going to show a few variations. Let's say white plays rook to c1. Well, that's instantly met with knight to e4. Threatening to take and threatening to take here. White doesn't want to lose his bishop, so or rather trade his bishop, which is a strong bishop. But what happens here is he loses a pawn very quickly. And if you're white, you're thinking, I'm going to have the upper hand in this game because I'm the one playing the first move. To get into a position where it's move 10 and you're a pawn down, for no reason really, is not ideal. So what you want to do is you always want to watch for these positions where you lose your a pawn. So you don't want that to happen, obviously. What's another way white can continue? Bishop to e3. Okay, but how does black continue here? Well, takes, and now we've got a discovered attack. So the bishop has to take here, and now we play knight to e4. And again, you can see how repetitively common these themes are, right? So black wants to put a knight on e4, and now there's a double attack. So white is literally going to lose a piece, so he needs to drop that bishop back. But after takes, check, bishop's being attacked, rook's being attacked. The only move for white is knight to d2. And again, white is just in a position where, what the hell is this position? How did this even happen? You know, black could just continue this way and castle, and despite it being a relatively even position, because white does have the bishop pair and a lot more space, white is a pawn down for no reason. So if you're white, you probably don't want to just lose a pawn like that. So instead of playing something like rook c1 or bishop d3, what is the move, you ask? Well, I'm going to show you. The key move, just as black's key move is to play knight to e4 here, or bishop to b4. Knight to e4 or bishop to b4. White's move is this one. Knight from f3 to d2. Dropping that knight back, breaking the pin by putting another piece in the way, and putting more pressure on that e4 square. So, for instance, if black tries this now, dropping the bishop back because it's attacked, white is completely fine. There's no pin, and if black was to continue this way, we just continue like this, and black has no other piece that can, no other knight really, that can go to e4 or d5 to put pressure on that c3 knight. and white's got a slight advantage in this position. Okay, so black's not going to play knight to e4, but black might play bishop to b4. What happens here? Well, let's say we can continue like this. And then after castles, here's another thing to watch out for. a3 does not actually threaten to win this bishop. Because if let's say it's black's move, if black was to allow that a pawn is pinned to the rook. So you always want to watch out that if you're going to play a3, if that's the move that you're thinking, this is how I'm going to defend with a3, always make sure that it is a move that genuinely threatens the bishop, because if it doesn't, then you might just be losing a move, or at least just calculate and just have that awareness about you. Where are we? Castle. Have that awareness about you that doesn't actually force the bishop to go back until you move that rook somewhere to c1, or even drop the queen to c1, i.e. just to defend that. Okay, cool. Another thing, actually, let's just play a couple of random moves. Another one is always watch out that if you take with the b pawn, you're not hanging the a pawn. So in this case, white would likely take back with the queen in order to not lose that a pawn. Again, why would you want to just lose the a pawn for no reason? Not ideal. Okay, so let's look at one more opening where this is very common. This is a Nimzo-Indian defense. And we're going to wrap it up here. So how does this arise? We go Nimzo-Indian, c3, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, which is the Nimzo-Indian. And now let's look at a couple of moves. Let's say knight to f3, c5. And this is, again, I'll just pause here. If black played something like castles, black's still 2 moves away from getting that queen to a5 to put pressure on this. So white can always, let's just say white does something like this. And, what's black going to do? White's going to castle pretty quickly, and there's no real danger of that pin. So one thing to look out for is if you're a few moves away from castling your king, because castling your king is just, again, it comes back to king safety, the number one principle of chess. Get your king to safety and most things will sort themselves out, So if black is going to play something like c5 here, just always have your eyes out for what happens if more pressure is put on that pin. So let's say in this position we play e3, queen a5, queen c2, castles, and a3. White just has enough. I want to break that pin. Again, that doesn't threaten the bishop at all. So you're wasting a move, really, with a3. You're better off developing with bishop to d3 and just castling on the next move. But here's the kicker. What if it's a Nimzo-Indian, and instead of something like knight to c, f3, rather, I'm getting my squares mixed up, white says, I'm going to play bishop to g5 so that I can play e3. What was the very first thing I said? Look out, if you're going to put a bishop on g5, you want to make sure that it's going to be defended and that it's not going to be required to drop back to break the pin. So if you're going to play bishop to g5 and c5, e3, now you're in trouble. And this is what you got to watch out for. This is the epitome of this trick just going in black's favor. Queen to a5. And now black is genuinely threatening to have a nasty attack here. And c takes d4 as a threat. So what happens if white just develops normally? Well, you get this nasty situation, of course. Not good. What's another example? Knight f3. This can be done. Or this is also a move. So again, it's the same themes over and over. What happens if black plays something like this? Oh, sorry, white. Black plays c takes d4. And white loses the bishop. What happens if instead of rook c1, queen c2 is played? The exact same thing. What happens if bishop to f6 is played? Again, we take on c3. King e2 is forced. Here, the bishop, the pawn on c4 is threatened. This is threatened. Again, white's just got a horrible position. So this is how quickly the position can fall apart. These are the tricks to look out for. There's one more I'm going to show you guys. One more way to defend. And let's go back to the Cambridge Springs variation. If you ever panic and you start forgetting lines and your opponent has just played something like this and you're like, crap, I don't know, was it knight d2 here or where do I go? You can always just trade the bishop off. And then at least you don't have to worry about that bishop on g5 hanging, and you can continue playing and you should have a solid position. Okay, so those are some of the tricks, some of the things to look out for. You can see the themes repeating. Make sure that you don't fall for any of the traps, and hopefully you set them for your opponents. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.